Told you top of the hour in Philadelphia tomorrow, City Council there expected to approve a number of gun control ordinances. This is not the first time that they've done this. A couple years ago, the members of the City Council and Mayor Michael Nutter signed a gun control package in Independence Hall, in which they compared the gun control ordinances to the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, I kind of wondered if they had read it at the time, too. Well, they're back at it again, and here to talk about it, John Hohenwarter, NRA ILA's Pennsylvania State Liaison. John, good evening, sir.
Cam, good evening. How are you?
City of Philadelphia keeps giving me stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
This is more of the same. You look at the ordinances that Philadelphia is planning on passing tomorrow, and once again, John, it seems like a lot of these provisions are going to violate Pennsylvania's firearms preemption law.
Well, they all will. I mean, this is clearly in defiance of state preemption. You have a couple registration schemes that you're going to be voting on. They're passing a measure dealing with changing the application for renewals for a concealed carry permit in which you have to list firearms, which is another registration scheme. They want you to report buying ammunition. I mean, it's really outrageous what City Council is looking at doing on Thursday.
You're right. I mean, let's take just for example here the new reporting requirements when you are getting a license to carry. You have to, according to this legislation, you have to put down the caliber, the length of barrel, the make, model, and manufacturer's number of and type of all guns in the home, including, I guess, long guns or shotguns, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So you're applying for a concealed carry license, and they want you to say every gun you have in the home, including those you're not going to be carrying.
It's criminal what they're looking at doing Thursday, Cam. It really is. I mean, you see the list in front of you. And, again, this is Philadelphia doing the same old thing. If these do end up passing this week, of course, that means litigation. That means the city of Philadelphia is going to have to spend money to litigate. Uh-huh. That means that we're going to have to step in again into Philadelphia and do the same to try to stop this. And, hopefully, we have a new governor. We have quite a turnaround in the legislature, and I'm hoping that the legislature steps up to the plate this session and really puts the clamps down on these cities, not only Philadelphia, but we have over 30 other municipalities and towns in Pennsylvania that have passed lost and stolen ordinances. So It really needs to be stopped. It's turning into an epidemic, and something needs to be done about it. And we're going to be asking not only the governor but the General Assembly to take a look at the state preemption law here in Pennsylvania and try to toughen it up to go after these cities.
Because one of the problems that we've seen is that these cities will pass these laws, so they're on the books, and yet you've had a judge say, well, you can't challenge the laws until somebody has been harmed, meaning you actually have to wait for somebody to be arrested or fined or jailed for, quote-unquote, failing to report their gun lost or stolen. John, at this point, it seems like these cities feel like they can pass almost any ordinance they want, and whether or not they enforce it, those laws are on the books. There is I think that there is a chilling effect on gun ownership in general.
Well, there is. I mean, one of the ordinances is confiscation of firearms if you're charged with certain criminal offenses. Where's the due process?
Charged, not convicted, charged.
Charged, that's correct.
And that's interesting because I actually had somebody say, well, what's the problem with that? And I wrote back and I said, innocent until proven guilty, for one. But two, we've seen in Philadelphia, John, a number of violent criminals, guys with very long rap sheets who have been arrested. They've been charged with crimes. They've never been actually prosecuted. They kind of get put on the suspense file. So we know that this is actually happening with violent criminals. I can only imagine what would happen to people who aren't violent criminals. It seems to me like this would be a really easy way of just saying, all right, we don't want to go through the process of actually taking away your guns by convicting you. Let's just arrest you, and while the statute of limitations is in effect, we'll keep those charges hanging over your head, and you can't legally own a gun.
That's right, and that's just wrong. And it's we're talking about taking away a constitutional right without due process. Whether it's the Second Amendment or what other amendments are we going to take away from citizens that are charged with crimes? I mean, it's just a bad precedent, and it's wrong. And hopefully, some of city council does wake up and understands that this is heading in the wrong direction. And you're correct. There's been a number of articles that have been recently printed in the Philadelphia papers discussing the lack of enforcement, lack of prosecution, and the revolving door courtrooms in the city of Philadelphia. And you take a look at and now this is another thing to think about, Cam. Crime, again, and violent crime in Philadelphia is down this year.
Yeah.
Again, as it is, across the country.
Right.
So this is nothing more than a political maneuver by city council to try to strong-arm the state legislature to start passing some of the measures that they support. And I think this is what it's really all about.
Yeah, I've used the phrase civic disobedience before, which is very different than civil disobedience. In fact, I don't think civic disobedience really works that well, because that is one lawmaking entity deciding that it does not want to obey the laws of the higher authority, the higher legal authority, in this case, the state legislature. You've got the city just saying, well, to heck with you guys. We don't care what you think. That's civic disobedience, but it's also completely ignoring the rule of law.
It really is. And it'd be nice to see the district attorney actually do something about this. I mean, even Governor Corbett, when he was the Attorney General, he sent out notification to the district attorneys across Pennsylvania indicating that these ordinances are contrary to state law.
Yeah.
And in fact, the former district attorney, Lynn Abraham, as you know, came out and told city council straightforward that she was not going to enforce these laws.
That's
so
right.
Why are we still going back into the council room discussing these issues?
Because they're hoping to get their 30 seconds of sound bites on the evening news so they can say, see, we're doing something.
That's what it's all about, and it's going to squander taxpayers' dollars. Obviously, NRA is going to use our resources to stop this, and for what? For a series of ordinances here over the last several years that are clearly in defiance of state law. So, I'm looking at hoping that the legislature steps in and creates some sort of punitive action against these types of ordinances because, again, we cannot litigate in every city in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And you have these ordinances that are sitting there that aren't being enforced, and it's all about strong-arming the legislature. So I think the legislature needs to do a little strong arm of their own.
All right. Do you have any expectation, John, that these ordinances will not get out and will not be approved tomorrow?
Well, I think we're looking at it Thursday. I'm hoping
Thursday.
they would table the ordinances, and maybe we can put enough pressure, in the next few days to do just that. So that's the best case scenario, that they table them and they'll bring them up for a vote. If they do bring them up for a vote, hopefully they vote them down.
All right. John, look forward to talking to you again later on in the week. I'm sure we'll be touching base with you on Thursday evening.
Looking forward to it.
In the meantime, if you're a resident of Philadelphia, contact your city council member.
Not only Philadelphia, but if you're an NRA member in the state of Pennsylvania, call your legislator up and ask for a little help on this, in Philadelphia, because that's what it's really going to come down to. It's going to come down to the state legislature really putting the clamps down on Philadelphia.
Yeah. All right. John, thank you again, sir.